Table stood frozen in the middle of the closet, his heart pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to break out of his chest. The house suddenly felt too quiet, too tight, as if the walls were slowly closing in on him. He bent down and picked up the card again, hoping, praying, that his eyes had lied to him. But the words were still there. Clear. Cruel. Unchangeable. Naledi Kumalo. HIV and AIDS treatment. March 2019. His knees weakened, and he sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. A cold sweat broke out across his forehead. For a long moment, he couldn't breathe properly. This was not suspicion anymore. This was proof. Memories attacked him one after another, mercilessly. Her car breaking down again and again. Her insistence on getting his number. The night of the dinner. The strange taste in the drink. The unnatural sleep. The allergic reaction. The hospital. The nurse who lost everything. His diagnosis. Her tears. Her vows. Her promise to stand by him in sickness and in health. All of it had been a lie. A carefully planned lie. Table felt something inside him crack. Not loudly, but deeply. The kind of break that never truly heals. Just then, he heard footsteps approaching. Naledi was coming down the hallway, humming softly, completely unaware that her world was about to collapse. "Did you find the keys?" she asked casually as she walked into the bedroom. Table slowly stood up, the card clenched tightly in his hand. He turned to face her. His eyes were no longer confused or gentle. They were dark, sharp, and filled with a pain that scared even him. "Naledi," he said quietly, his voice trembling despite his effort to control it. "What is this?" Her eyes dropped to his hand. For half a second, just half a second, her face betrayed her. The color drained from it. The humming stopped. Time itself seemed to pause. That's nothing," she said quickly, forcing a laugh. "Why are you going through my things?" Table stepped closer and held the card up between them. "Nothing," he repeated. "This says you've been on HIV treatment since 2019. We met in 2021. Explain that to me." Naledi swallowed hard. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her mind raced, searching for a lie strong enough to save her. But this time, the truth had cornered her. I was going to tell you," she finally said, her voice shaking. "I was scared. I didn't want to lose you." Table let out a bitter, broken laugh. "Tell me," he asked. "Tell me when, Naledi. Before or after you drugged me? Before or after I woke up not remembering anything? Before or after you blamed an innocent nurse and destroyed her life?" Her eyes widened in shock. "What are you talking about?" "You knew," Table said, his voice rising now, years of suppressed pain spilling out. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You watched that nurse. You planted the seed. You married me knowing you had already infected me." Naledi's mask finally slipped. Her shoulders sagged, and her face hardened. "You think you're better than me?" she snapped suddenly. "You think I wanted to be alone in this disease? Do you know what it feels like to suffer alone? So you decided to destroy me too?" Table shouted. "I trusted you. I loved you." Tears streamed down Naledi's face now, but they were not tears of regret, only fear of being exposed. "I didn't want to be alone," she whispered. "I just wanted someone to share the pain with." Table stepped back as if her words had physically struck him. "That is not love," he said quietly. "That is evil." He turned away from her, his whole body shaking. "We are done," he said firmly. "I'm going to the police. I'm going to the hospital. And this time, the truth will speak." Naledi's eyes filled with terror. "Table, please," she begged. "If you do this, my life is over." Table looked back at her one last time. "You ended mine the day you made that choice," he replied. "Now you will live with yours." As he walked out of the bedroom, sunlight streamed through the windows, the same house, the same day, but nothing would ever be the same again. The secret had finally come to light. And once truth is revealed, no amount of darkness can put it back. Tabo did not sleep that night. He sat alone in the living room, the lights off, the curtains open, staring into the darkness outside. The hospital card lay on the coffee table in front of him, illuminated only by the faint glow of the street light filtering through the window. It felt like a loaded weapon, silent, deadly, undeniable. Naledi had locked herself in the bedroom after he walked away from her. He could hear her pacing earlier, the soft sound of footsteps, the occasional sob that sounded more like frustration than remorse. But now, even that had stopped. The house was quiet again, but this time, the silence was heavy with truth. Tabo's mind replayed everything. Every smile. Every touch. Every promise whispered in the dark. He remembered how she used to watch him when she thought he wasn't looking, how her eyes followed his every move, not with love, but with calculation. He had mistaken obsession for affection, control for care. Around 3 a.m., he stood up, walked into the kitchen, and poured himself a glass of water. His hands were steady now. Something inside him had changed. The shock was gone. In its place was a cold, focused clarity. This was not an accident. This was not negligence. This was not fate. This was intent. By morning, Tabo had made a decision. When Naledi finally came out of the bedroom, her eyes were swollen, her face pale. She looked smaller somehow, stripped of the confidence she usually wore like armor. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I never meant for it to happen like this." Tabo didn't respond. He calmly picked up his phone, grabbed his car keys, and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" she asked, panic rising in her voice. "To do what I should have done 2 years ago," he replied without turning back. "I'm choosing myself." The door closed behind him with a finality that echoed through the house. The first stop was the hospital. Tabo demanded his full medical records, every test, every report, every timeline. When the doctor noticed the seriousness in his eyes, the casual tone disappeared immediately. Within an hour, Tabo had copies of everything. The dates told a clear story. His first positive result came shortly after the night he lost consciousness. Before that, his records were clean. The second stop was the police station. At first, the officer at the desk looked skeptical. Cases involving HIV transmission were complicated, emotionally charged, and often dismissed due to lack of evidence. But when Tabo laid out the hospital card, the medical records, and the timeline, the officer's expression changed. "This is serious," the officer said. "Very serious." A formal investigation was opened. Naledi was called in for questioning the next day. She arrived dressed impeccably, her hair done, her face calm, but beneath the surface, fear pulsed like a heartbeat. She denied everything at first. Claimed the card was old. Claimed she had been scared to disclose. Claimed she loved her husband. But lies collapse when they are pressed from every angle. The toxicology report from Tabo's old hospital visit resurfaced, something that had been overlooked at the time. Traces of a sedative were found in his blood, inconsistent with anything administered by the hospital. That changed everything. Suddenly, this was no longer just about HIV. This was assault. This was premeditation. As the investigation deepened, another truth surfaced, one Naledi had worked hard to bury. She had done this before. Not the infection, but the manipulation. Former partners came forward, men who spoke of sudden illnesses, unexplained hospital visits, emotional dependency, and coercive behavior. None of them had proof back then. None of them understood what they were dealing with. Until now. Naledi was arrested. The day the news broke, the media exploded. Wife accused of deliberately infecting husband with HIV. Designer demon, the woman behind the mask. Innocent nurse cleared after 2 years of silence. Tanned, the nurse who had lost everything, received a call she never thought would come. The hospital issued a public apology. Her nursing license was reinstated. Her name was cleared. She cried again that day, but this time, they were tears of vindication. Table watched the court proceedings from the back row. Naledi sat in the dock, no longer glamorous, no longer powerful. Without her designer clothes and confident smile, she looked like what she truly was, small, exposed, and afraid. The prosecution painted a clear picture. A woman who refused to suffer alone. A woman who believed love meant possession. A woman who chose destruction over honesty. Naledi's defense tried to argue emotional distress, abandonment trauma, mental instability. But intent is intent, and the evidence was overwhelming. When it was time for Table to testify, the courtroom fell silent. He stood tall, though his voice trembled. I trusted her, he said. I loved her. And she used that love as a weapon. He paused, swallowing hard. I live with this virus every day. I take medication. I face stigma. But the worst part is knowing that it didn't have to be this way. Naledi stared at him, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, she truly understood. She hadn't just infected his body. She had poisoned his faith in love. The judge's sentence was firm. Naledi Kumalo was found guilty of deliberate transmission of HIV, assault, and obstruction of justice. She was sentenced to prison. As the gavel struck, Table closed his eyes, not in relief, but in release. Life after truth was not easy. Healing never is. Table moved out of the house they once shared. He started therapy. He joined a support group. Slowly, painfully, he began to rebuild. He spoke publicly about his experience, not for pity, but for awareness. Love should never come with secrecy, he said in one interview. An illness should never be weaponized. People listened. Lives changed. Somewhere in prison, Naledi sat alone, stripped of mirrors, stripped of lies, forced to face the silence she once feared so much. And Table learned that survival is not just about breathing. It's about reclaiming your truth. Because sometimes, the greatest betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the one who swore to love you. And sometimes, the greatest victory is simply choosing to live despite it all. After the trial, Table disappeared from the public eye. For months, people speculated. Some said he had left the country. Others said he had fallen apart completely. The truth was quieter, heavier, and far more human. Table rented a small house on the outskirts of town, far from memories, far from whispers. A place where nobody knew his name, where he could wake up without being reminded of who he used to be. Every morning, he swallowed his ARV medication with a glass of water and a silent prayer. Not a prayer for healing, he had already accepted the virus, but a prayer for strength. Strength to forgive himself for trusting. Strength to live without bitterness poisoning what remained of his heart. Some days were easier than others. Some days, he felt almost normal. He cooked, exercised, read books. He even laughed sometimes, short, startled laughs, as if surprised his body still remembered joy. Other days, the memories ambushed him. A scent. A song on the radio. A woman's laughter in a grocery store. On those days, the weight returned. The betrayal replayed itself, over and over, like a cruel loop he couldn't turn off. And yet, slowly, something unexpected began to happen. Table began to heal. Not because the pain disappeared, but because he stopped running from it. One afternoon, he received a call that shook him. It was Mama Nondi. His mother's voice sounded older, thinner, weighed down by regret. My son, she said softly, can I come see you? Table hesitated. He loved his mother, but part of him still carried resentment. She had sensed something was wrong from the beginning. She had felt it in her spirit, but she had stayed silent. Still, she was his mother. Yes, he said. You can come. When she arrived, she brought homemade food, just like she used to when he was a boy. They sat together at the small kitchen table, neither knowing how to begin. Finally, Mama Nondi spoke. I saw darkness around that woman from the start, she admitted, her eyes glistening. But I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want you to think I was controlling your happiness. Table exhaled slowly. I know, he said. And I don't blame you. That was the moment Mama Nondi broke down. She cried the way only mothers cry, deep, aching sobs that come from love and fear mixed together. Table stood up and held her, feeling the roles reverse. For the first time in years, he was the strong one. I survived, Mama, he whispered. That means something. Meanwhile, behind concrete walls and steel bars, Naledi's world was shrinking. Prison stripped her of everything she once used to define herself. No designer clothes. No mirrors. No admirers. No control. In the beginning, she told herself she was misunderstood. That she had loved too much. That the world was cruel. That Table had betrayed her by exposing the truth. But prison has a way of silencing lies. At night, alone on her tin mattress, memories surfaced uninvited. The choices she made. The moment she decided that if she had to suffer, someone else would suffer with her. The night she slipped something into his drink, convincing herself it was love, not cruelty. For the first time, there was no one left to deceive. Only herself. Weeks turned into months. Months into years. Naledi aged quickly. The sharpness in her eyes dulled. The arrogance faded. Guilt crept in quietly, settling deep in her chest where pride once lived. One evening, she asked the prison counselor a question she had never allowed herself to ask before. Do you think someone like me can ever be forgiven? The counselor looked at her carefully. Forgiveness begins, she said, when you stop justifying what you did. Naledi had no reply. Back in the outside world, Table found purpose again, unexpectedly. He began volunteering at an HIV awareness center. At first, he just listened. He sat in circles with strangers who carried similar scars. Different stories, same pain. Men and women betrayed by lovers, by trust, by silence. Then one day, he spoke. Not dramatically. Not angrily. He simply told the truth. About love. About deception. About survival. People cried. Some nodded silently. Others thanked him afterward, telling him his words had given them courage to get tested, to leave dangerous relationships, to speak up. That was when Table realized something powerful. His pain had meaning. And meaning transformed suffering into strength. Years later, on a calm Sunday afternoon, Table stood on a beach, barefoot in the sand. The ocean stretched endlessly before him, vast, unpredictable, alive. Beside him stood a woman. Her name was Amara. She knew everything. She knew about the virus. She knew about Naledi. She knew about the scars. And she stayed. Not because she felt sorry for him. Not because she wanted to save him. But because she chose him with truth, not secrets. Table looked at her and smiled. Not the broken smile of a wounded man. But the steady smile of someone who had survived hell and walked out with his soul intact. And somewhere far away, behind prison walls, Naledi heard about him. She heard that he was alive. Thriving. Loving again. For the first time, jealousy did not rise. Only silence. And regret. Because the cruelest punishment is not prison. It is knowing that the person you tried to destroy learned how to live beautifully without you. And that, my dear friends, is where this story truly ends. Not with revenge. Not with hatred. But with truth. With consequences. And with a man who chose healing over bitterness, and lived. In the months and years that followed, Table's life became a powerful testament to resilience and hope. Despite the pain he endured, he refused to be defined by what happened to him. Instead, he chose to become a voice for those who felt silenced by shame and fear. Table began hosting community workshops and support groups, where he shared his story with honesty and courage. He spoke about living with HIV, not as a death sentence, but as a manageable condition when met with the right care and support. His message resonated deeply, touching countless lives and breaking down the stigma that too often surrounds the virus. Every time someone came forward, sharing their own experience, Table reminded them of one thing. You are not alone. Your story matters. And your future is still bright. Through this work, Table found new purpose. He wasn't just surviving, he was thriving, growing stronger with each day. He inspired others to seek testing, to speak openly, and to love themselves unconditionally. Meanwhile, in prison, Naledi's journey was also one of transformation. Facing the consequences of her actions, she began to understand the true meaning of accountability and remorse. She participated in rehabilitation programs focused on healing and empathy. She expressed deep regret for the pain she caused and committed herself to change. Though the road ahead was long, Naledi's story became a reminder that even in our darkest moments, growth and redemption are possible. One of the most beautiful parts of Table's story is the way he reclaimed his life, not through bitterness or anger, but through forgiveness and self-love. He rebuilt relationships with family and friends who had stood by him in silence, grateful for the chance to move forward together. He found love again, this time with a partner who accepted him fully, supporting him through every challenge. Their relationship was built on trust, respect, and honesty, the foundation that had been missing before. Table's message to his followers, viewers, and community is simple but powerful. Life will test you. It will knock you down. But you have the power to get back up. To rewrite your story. To choose hope over despair. If you or someone you know is facing challenges related to HIV or difficult relationships, remember there is help. Testing is available, treatment is effective, and support is closer than you think. You are not defined by your diagnosis. You are defined by your strength and your spirit. Thank you for listening to Table's journey. If you found this story meaningful, please consider subscribing for more inspiring stories that uplift and empower. Remember to like, share, and comment your thoughts below. Together, we can build a community of understanding and hope. Stay strong, stay safe, and until next time, keep believing in the power of your own story. Thank you so much for watching and being part of this journey with me. Remember, no matter what you're going through, there's always hope and strength inside you waiting to shine. If this story touched you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire and uplift. Take care of yourself and those around you. Stay safe, stay positive, and keep believing in your own power to overcome. Until next time, this is your channel name, signing off, sending you love and light. See you in the next video.